Have you ever been ignored by someone you care about and felt the sting of frustration, confusion, or even panic? Don't worry, you're not alone. But how you respond in those moments can make all the difference. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 5 critical mistakes you must avoid when she ignores you. Inspired by the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, you'll learn how to navigate these situations with confidence, composure, and self-respect. Stick around, because by the end of this video you'll not only handle being ignored like a pro, but you'll also strengthen your sense of inner peace. Don't miss out. Your future self will thank you. Let's dive in. Number 1. Overthinking her actions. Overthinking her actions had always been her quiet undoing. It was not as if she sought perfection in every decision or interaction. Rather, she felt a constant need to unravel the hidden threads of meaning behind every word she spoke, every move she made. Her mind worked overtime, replaying past conversations and analyzing potential reactions with surgical precision. What did that pause in the conversation signify? Had her tone been misconstrued? Was her laughter genuine enough to convey warmth but not so excessive as to seem insincere? Each question cascaded into another, until her thoughts resembled an endless labyrinth with no exit. It was particularly difficult during social gatherings. As someone who deeply valued connection but feared judgment, she often found herself caught in a paradoxical web. She wanted to belong, to be seen, and appreciated, but her internal critic constantly whispered doubts into her ear. Did they really mean it when they said they enjoyed your company? Was that smile genuine or just polite? These questions left her second-guessing even the most innocuous interactions, turning moments of potential joy into burdens of self-doubt. Her overthinking extended beyond social scenarios, creeping into decisions as mundane as choosing what to wear or what to order at a restaurant. The simplest choices felt heavy with imagined consequences. If I wear this, will it send the wrong message? If I order that, will it seem pretentious? She would often catch herself envying those who moved through life with apparent ease, making decisions without being haunted by the specter of overanalysis. What made overthinking particularly insidious was its stealth. It didn't announce itself with fanfare or grand gestures. Instead, it slipped quietly into her day, wrapping itself around her thoughts like a vine. It might start with a fleeting worry, a colleague's ambiguous comment, a friend's delayed reply, and before she knew it, the worry had grown into a full-blown narrative of what-ifs and imagined scenarios. Even when she recognized what was happening, the grip of her thoughts was difficult to loosen. Despite the mental exhaustion it caused, there was a small, secret part of her that clung to overthinking as a shield. To her, it felt like a way of being prepared, of staying one step ahead of potential misunderstandings or failures. But the irony was that her endless analysis often led to the very outcomes she feared. People would sense her hesitations or misinterpret her guardedness, reinforcing the cycle of doubt she desperately wanted to escape. She often wondered if she could ever quiet the noise in her mind. Therapy and mindfulness practices had helped, teaching her to observe her thoughts without judgment and to focus on the present moment. Yet, change was slow, and the patterns of overthinking were deeply ingrained. She learned to take small victories where she could, letting go of a single worry instead of trying to untangle them all, reminding herself that not every action needed to be dissected, that not every silence was ominous. Overthinking her actions was a constant battle, but she was beginning to see it less as a flaw and more as a part of her humanity. Her tendency to analyze came from a place of care, of wanting to be thoughtful and considerate. It was a double-edged sword, capable of both fostering deep empathy and cutting her with self-inflicted wounds. What mattered, she realized, was learning how to wield it wisely. She began to trust herself more, to lean into the idea that she didn't have to control every outcome. Sometimes, she reminded herself, life wasn't about always getting it right, but about showing up and allowing herself to be imperfect. She tried to find moments of stillness amidst the chaos, where she could simply be without the weight of endless evaluation. Slowly but surely, She was learning to make peace with her overthinking, to see it not as a burden, but as a part of her journey toward understanding herself and the world around her. Number 2. Acting out of desperation. Acting out of desperation is a common yet profoundly complex human behavior, often rooted in our instinct for survival and a fervent desire to escape dire circumstances. Desperation arises when we find ourselves backed into a corner, facing situations where conventional methods and solutions appear futile. It is a state where logic is often overshadowed by urgency, where fear and hope clash in a volatile mix that drives individuals to act in ways they might not under ordinary circumstances. From a psychological perspective, desperation triggers a fight-or-flight response, releasing a surge of adrenaline that sharpens focus but also narrows judgment. This duality can lead to both extraordinary feats of courage and devastating lapses in decision-making. History and literature are rife with examples of desperate acts, showcasing both the heights of human ingenuity and the depths of moral compromise. Consider stories of people stranded in the wilderness, forced to survive against all odds, or historical accounts of revolutions sparked by unbearable oppression. These narratives highlight how desperation can act as a catalyst for remarkable creativity and resilience. However, they also reveal the darker side of this condition, the potential for unethical or harmful choices made in the heat of the moment. For instance, a person struggling with financial ruin might resort to fraud or theft, while someone facing a threat to their life might take actions they would later regret. Such acts often blur the line between right and wrong, raising questions about accountability and the limits of human endurance. In relationships, desperation can manifest as clinging to toxic dynamics or making impulsive declarations in an attempt to salvage connections. For example, someone fearful of losing a partner might resort to manipulative behavior, such as issuing ultimatums or making grandiose promises they cannot keep. While these actions may stem from genuine emotional distress, they can often backfire, eroding trust and further complicating the situation. Similarly, in professional settings, desperation might push individuals to take unethical shortcuts, overextend themselves, or compromise their values in pursuit of success or security. These actions might yield short-term gains, but often come at the cost of long-term stability and self-respect. The consequences of acting out of desperation are as varied as the situations that provoke it. In some cases, desperation can lead to transformative breakthroughs as individuals find innovative solutions or tap into hidden reserves of strength. Stories of entrepreneurs who risked everything to achieve their dreams, or activists who stood their ground against insurmountable odds, often inspire us because they showcase how desperation can fuel determination and ingenuity. On the other hand, there are countless cautionary tales of decisions made in desperation that led to irreversible damage, both to the individuals involved and those around them. A gambler placing a final, reckless bet to recover losses or a leader making rash decisions in a crisis are just two examples of how desperation can spiral into disaster. Understanding the dynamics of desperation requires empathy and nuance. It is easy to judge actions taken under duress from the safety of hindsight, but it is far more challenging to appreciate the weight of the circumstances that led to those decisions. People often act out of desperation, not because they lack moral fiber or intelligence, but because they perceive no viable alternatives. This perception is often compounded by societal pressures, systemic inequalities, or personal limitations that constrain their options. Addressing the root causes of desperation, whether through social support, education, or mental health resources, can go a long way in mitigating its negative impacts. Moreover, cultivating resilience and emotional intelligence can help individuals navigate desperate situations more effectively. Resilience enables people to endure hardship without resorting to impulsive actions, while emotional intelligence fosters self-awareness and better decision-making under stress. For instance, learning to pause and assess a situation critically, even in the face of intense pressure, can prevent rash choices that might worsen the predicament. Building strong support networks and seeking guidance from trusted mentors or professionals can also provide invaluable perspective and options that might not be immediately apparent. In conclusion, acting out of desperation is a multifaceted phenomenon that reflects the complexities of human nature and the challenges of navigating a world fraught with uncertainty. While desperation can lead to extraordinary acts of courage and innovation, it also has the potential to result in devastating mistakes. By fostering understanding, addressing systemic issues, and equipping individuals with tools to manage stress and adversity, we can create a society that empowers people to respond to desperate circumstances with wisdom and grace rather than impulsive recklessness. Ultimately, how we handle desperation speaks to our capacity for growth, resilience, and compassion in the face of life's inevitable trials. Number 3, taking it personally. Taking things personally. It's something we all do from time to time. It's that pang of hurt when someone criticizes your work, that simmering anger when you're overlooked, or the quiet doubt creeping in after a harsh comment. When we take things personally, we often feel like someone has directly attacked our value, our competence, or even our identity. But why does this happen, and what can we do about it? At its core, taking things personally is deeply tied to our need for validation and belonging. As social creatures, we are wired to seek approval and avoid rejection. It's part of our survival instinct, rooted in a time when being cast out of the group could mean the difference between life and death. Although modern life is much safer, these instincts remain. A seemingly small slight, a sharp tone from a colleague, an unkind social media comment, or even being ignored by a friend, can trigger a disproportionate emotional response. It feels personal, but often it's not. The truth is, people's actions and words often say more about them than they do about us. A curt response might stem from someone's bad day, stress, or personal struggles rather than our behavior. Yet, we interpret these moments as a reflection of our worth. Our inner dialogue twists the narrative. I must have done something wrong, or they must think I'm not good enough. This internalization can lead to resentment, insecurity, and even strained relationships. But when we pause to consider that most people are preoccupied with their own issues and insecurities, we begin to see things differently. Still, the challenge remains. How do we stop taking things personally? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to your reactions and thoughts. When you feel that familiar sting, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this really about me? More often than not, the answer is no. Developing this awareness takes practice, but it's a powerful tool to shift your perspective. Next, consider the bigger picture. When someone is rude or dismissive, their behavior might reflect their mood, stress, or circumstances rather than your actions. Remind yourself that everyone is dealing with battles you can't see. This doesn't excuse hurtful behavior, but it helps to depersonalize it. Empathy can go a long way in reducing the emotional impact of others' words or actions. Another strategy is to reframe criticism as an opportunity rather than an attack. Feedback, even when poorly delivered, can hold valuable lessons. Instead of dwelling on the negative, focus on what you can learn or how you can improve. This mindset shift can transform moments of perceived rejection into opportunities for growth. Boundaries also play a crucial role. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind or heart. You have the right to choose whose words matter to you. By setting boundaries, you protect your mental and emotional well-being, making it easier to let go of unnecessary hurt. It's also worth examining why certain situations trigger you. Often, taking things personally stems from unresolved insecurities. If you're confident in your abilities, a snide remark about your work might roll off your back. But if you're doubting yourself, the same remark can feel like a confirmation of your fears. Addressing these underlying insecurities through self-reflection, therapy, or personal growth can make you less vulnerable to external judgments. Finally, practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when you overreact or take something to heart. It's human nature, after all. Remind yourself that you're doing your best and that you don't have to be perfect. Treat yourself with the same understanding you'd offer a friend who's struggling. Taking things personally is a habit we can unlearn. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to see the world through a lens of empathy and self-awareness. The next time you find yourself hurt by someone's words or actions, pause. Ask yourself if this is truly about you. Choose to let go of what doesn't serve you. Remember, your worth isn't determined by others' opinions or behavior. It's defined by how you see yourself and the value you bring to the world. In the end, life is too short to carry the weight of every perceived slight. By releasing the need to take things personally, you free yourself to live with more peace, joy, and confidence, and that truly is a gift worth embracing. Number 4, seeking external validation. From the moment we are born, we instinctively seek connection and approval. As social creatures, we naturally crave validation from those around us. Whether it's a smile from a parent, praise from a teacher, or admiration from a friend, these affirmations can feel like the glue holding our self-worth together. External validation is not inherently negative. It can motivate us, strengthen relationships, and provide valuable feedback. However, the line between healthy validation and an unhealthy dependence on external approval is often blurred. When our self-esteem becomes overly reliant on others' opinions, we risk losing touch with our inner sense of worth, plunging into a cycle of insecurity and anxiety. This script delves into why we seek external validation, the potential pitfalls, and how we can strike a healthier balance. The desire for validation stems from our evolutionary need for belonging. In ancient times, being part of a group meant survival, and rejection from the community could lead to isolation and danger. These deeply ingrained instincts remain embedded in modern society, though the stakes are less dire. Today, validation often manifests in subtler forms: likes and comments on social media, compliments at work, or even the acknowledgement of our ideas in conversations. While such approval feels rewarding, it's crucial to recognize that basing our self-worth on external sources is inherently unstable. Opinions are subjective and fleeting, and chasing them can leave us vulnerable to disappointment and manipulation. One of the challenges with external validation is its addictive nature. Positive feedback triggers a dopamine release in the brain, creating a sense of euphoria. Over time, we can become conditioned to seek this high, shaping our behavior to elicit praise rather than staying true to ourselves. This can lead to compromising personal values, avoiding authentic self-expression, or suppressing emotions to maintain a polished exterior. For example, someone might overwork themselves to earn accolades from their boss, sacrificing their health and personal life in the process. In such cases, the pursuit of validation doesn't just diminish individuality, it actively harms well-being. Social media has amplified this phenomenon to unprecedented levels. Platforms designed to connect us often perpetuate unhealthy comparisons and validation seeking. A single post might garner hundreds of likes, while another goes unnoticed, leaving the poster questioning their worth. The curated nature of social media further distorts reality, as people showcase only the highlights of their lives. This creates a constant pressure to present an idealized version of oneself, trapping users in a cycle of performance and judgment. The result is a widespread crisis of self-esteem, as individuals measure their value through the distorted lens of online approval. So how can we break free from this cycle? The first step is cultivating self-awareness. Recognizing when and why we seek validation can help us address underlying insecurities. Ask yourself, are you pursuing a goal because it aligns with your values, or because you hope it will impress others? Journaling, mindfulness practices, and honest reflection can reveal patterns in your behavior and provide clarity on your motivations. This awareness empowers you to redirect your focus from external approval to internal fulfillment. Building self-esteem is another critical step. Self-esteem grounded in self-acceptance and personal growth is far more stable than self-esteem derived from external sources. It involves embracing imperfections, celebrating achievements, big or small, and being kind to yourself in moments of failure. When you value yourself independently of others' opinions, their approval becomes a bonus rather than a necessity. Developing skills, pursuing hobbies, and setting meaningful goals can also reinforce a sense of self-worth. Finally, seek genuine connections rather than superficial approval. Surround yourself with people who appreciate you for who you are, not what you can do for them. Authentic relationships provide validation in a way that feels nourishing rather than conditional. It's also essential to practice giving validation to others. By encouraging and uplifting those around us, we shift our focus outward and foster mutual support. Ultimately, seeking external validation is a natural part of the human experience, but it should not define us. Our worth does not hinge on the opinions of others. It is rooted in our values, actions, and self-perception. By finding balance, we can break free from the trap of constant approval seeking and build a more authentic, fulfilling life. Remember, the most meaningful validation comes from within, and no external applause can replace the quiet confidence of self-acceptance. Number 5. Abandoning your principles. Abandoning one's principles is a decision that can feel both liberating and devastating, depending on the circumstances. Principles are the moral and ethical guidelines we choose to live by, often shaped by upbringing, culture, and personal experiences. They act as a compass, helping us navigate the complexities of life with a sense of purpose and integrity. However, the pressure to compromise these values can arise in many forms, from societal expectations and professional ambitions to survival instincts and emotional bonds. The act of stepping away from one's principles, whether intentional or unintentional, reveals a great deal about human nature and the nuanced challenges we face. But what does it truly mean to abandon your principles, and how does it reshape one's identity? In many ways, principles define who we are. They give us a sense of self, a framework to distinguish right from wrong, and a foundation for decision-making. For example, someone who values honesty may find great satisfaction in living a transparent life, even when truth-telling comes at a cost. Similarly, individuals who prioritize compassion often experience deep fulfillment when helping others. These principles, when adhered to, create a consistent narrative of integrity that others can rely on. Yet, life is rarely black and white, and sticking to one's principles can sometimes seem impractical or even impossible. A young professional, for instance, may enter the workforce determined to avoid unethical practices, but find themselves in a corporate culture where cutting corners is the norm. The choice between career advancement and sticking to their moral code becomes a test of character and resilience. Abandoning principles is not always a conscious decision. Often it occurs in small, incremental steps rather than dramatic shifts. A person might begin by making minor compromises, rationalizing that the deviations are insignificant or temporary. Over time, these compromises can snowball, leading to a complete departure from the original values. This gradual erosion of principles is particularly common in high-stakes environments, such as politics, finance, or competitive industries, where the pressure to succeed can outweigh personal convictions. Once the realization dawns that their actions no longer align with their beliefs, individuals may experience guilt, shame, or even existential crises. This disconnect between actions and values creates an internal conflict that can be difficult to reconcile. However, there are instances where abandoning principles might seem justified or even necessary. In situations of survival, people are often forced to prioritize immediate needs over ethical considerations. For instance, a person might steal food to feed their starving family, fully aware that theft goes against their moral code. In such cases, abandoning principles is not a reflection of moral weakness, but rather a response to dire circumstances. Similarly, emotional bonds can sometimes compel people to act against their values. A parent might lie to protect their child, or a friend might cover up for another's mistake out of loyalty. These choices, while contradictory to their principles, stem from love, empathy, or the instinct to protect. The consequences of abandoning principles can be profound and far-reaching. On an individual level, it can lead to feelings of regret, a diminished sense of self-worth, and strained relationships. For those in positions of influence, such as leaders or public figures, the impact can ripple through entire communities. When leaders compromise their principles, they erode trust and set harmful precedents. For example, a politician caught in corruption may not only face personal disgrace, but also weaken public faith in governance. Conversely, some individuals find freedom in abandoning rigid principles. They may view it as an opportunity to adapt, grow, or redefine their values in response to new experiences and information. This perspective highlights the fluid nature of morality and the human capacity for change. Ultimately, abandoning your principles is a deeply personal experience that forces introspection and self-evaluation. It challenges individuals to confront the disparity between who they are and who they aspire to be. While some may view it as a failure, others see it as a moment of growth, a chance to question rigid beliefs and embrace a more nuanced understanding of morality. The key lies in self-awareness and the willingness to take responsibility for one's choices. By reflecting on the reasons behind the decision and its consequences, individuals can learn valuable lessons about themselves and the world around them. In the end, principles are not just static rules but living ideals, meant to guide rather than confine. To abandon them is not always a sign of defeat. Sometimes, it is simply a step on the journey toward a more authentic self. So there you have it. The 5 critical mistakes you should avoid when she's ignoring you. Remember, Stoicism is all about staying grounded, keeping control over your emotions, and not letting external situations dictate your peace. By focusing on your own growth and handling rejection with grace, you'll naturally become a more attractive and resilient individual. If you found these tips helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Don't forget to drop a like and share your thoughts in the comments. How do you handle situations like this? I'd love to hear your perspective. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay stoic, stay strong. ***.